Hello, welcome to Inkeep Development Diary number 17. So, for those of you who haven't really followed all my previous videos, if this is the first time that you're joining us, this is a game for the PC that I've been working on for a few years, and you're an innkeeper, so you're running an inn in a fantasy world. And what you're basically doing day to day is, rather than kind of it being a management game, it's a game about observing, about watching, about serving your guests, so you're serving ale, you're giving food to your guests, but you're also looking for who might have something valuable. So everyone that visits your inn potentially could be somebody who you might want to steal from. And when they go to sleep at night, if you've identified them, you're going to be creeping into their rooms and taking some of their valuable goodies. So that's the twist, and it's a project that's been in development now for about 4.5 years in my part time, which means that I do have big gaps sometimes between videos like this one, which was wow. I think it's already been 4 or 5 months plus since the last one, maybe longer. But yeah, I did want to show some of the progress that I've made. I was going to hold off a bit longer, but it's been so long, and I think that it's better to do maybe more frequent, shorter videos than these massive 20-minute ones. So enough waffling, let's have a look at what's different, what's new. So for those of you who have kind of watched previous videos, you might already have noticed a few things, but one thing that I've done in the past few months is this right hand side of the inn. So the windows, the lighting effects on the windows, that's something that I really wanted to get down, and it's still, I might tweak it a bit. It might be a little bit too strong at the moment, but you can see these light beams. So let's have a look at what's going on here. You can kind of see, I'm not sure why it's not appearing there, but you can see here that we've got these particle effects kind of going on there, which I quite like. And if I walk through the beam, you can kind of see how I get brighter when I'm standing on it. So each one of these beams has been made up of multiple different things that are going on. So you can see here that my character has a shadow that's kind of being cast. You can see that I'm brighter when I stand in it. You can see that there's the actual beam itself that I pass through. There's the beam on the floor. So yeah, there's a lot of different elements that went into making those. And if I head on up these stairs, I can kind of walk through them like this. I think it looks pretty cool. So I'm going to replicate that effect for all the different bedrooms, I think, because I do like it. Although I might, make it a little bit more subtle than this. But this is supposed to just be to help give the daytime a little bit more emphasis. So that's one. Okay, another feature, heading on down over to here, that you would have noticed is that the animation for the player character, the innkeeper, is a bit more fleshed out. So the previous video, his legs were moving but his arms weren't, so I added some movement to the arms. But I also had to create a bunch of variations. So if you're interacting with the world in Inkeep, for those of you who are joining us new, you'll know that all of the interaction is done kind of through this avatar, through this character. So it's very point and click. If I come over here, for example, I can grab some wood, and so I've done this kind of animation you can see here where I'm walking around, I'm carrying this wood as I go. So I'll just go and dump this in the fireplace here. And similarly, if I grab a tankard, you can see that this is animated. So now I have an animation for walking while having this tankard, something that I'm holding onto. If I pour beer, I'm just going to pour some ale there, you can see I've got this variation, like so. So that took a little bit of tinkering, but my favorite one is actually probably this. If I mouse over here, you can see, actually, I have to explain this first, that you've got a couple of different icons, and you can use the mouse wheel to just switch between them. And I can actually grab a barrel. So, yeah, a little bit more tweaking might be necessary, but I'm pretty happy with this one too. So these kinds of animations are a little bit time consuming, but I'm really enjoying it. I think they add a lot of colour. And when you've got several characters fully animated in this play space, it's really going to look pretty nice, I think. So moving on to this feature here, yeah, you can now pick up and place barrels around. So I can just dump it here, grab it, put it here, grab it, put it here. And the idea with this is that it's going to link through to this cellar. So if I come down here, there's going to be a little bit of clipping because I haven't really sorted this out yet. But this cellar down here has a whole bunch of barrels, and I'll be able to swap them manually. So I decided to stay with this theme. Originally, it was more of a drag and a drop kind of system that I was thinking of, but I think manually carrying the barrels is just much more thematic and fits with the way that you have to do a lot of stuff manually in the game. So yeah, animation is a big one, being able to move barrels. But another thing that you might have noticed just as I was doing that is the appearance of text down here at the bottom of the screen. So it tells me what my current action is going to do if I'm about to interact with something. So over here, for example, take or stack firewood, or over here, light a candle, over here, grab a tankard, over here, pick up a barrel. And what's happening here is a couple of things I want to draw attention to. One is that if I go closer, if you have a look at that text, right, it's nice and white. If I walk away, it's kind of grey. I might make the grey a bit stronger because it's still a little bit hard to see maybe. But if it's brighter, that means that you actually are close enough to interact. So now I can interact with that object. If I'm further away, it's a bit greyed out. And if I click then to interact, it does this little wiggle like this. Same thing over here. So this is just part of me now starting to think about stuff like the intelligibility of the play space, because like if I'm a bit too far away to add wood from the fire, it does this. If I didn't have that kind of feature, you know, it's weird if I can add fire, if I can interact with something from far away, right? But I also need to be able to tell the player what's going on, so that they don't feel frustrated if they simply can't interact with something. If they feel like they're close enough but the game doesn't really tell you no you're not, then that could be something that's a bit confusing or frustrating to people. So starting to you know, think about intelligibility and usability. So this is kind of how I'm working on that. But the second point of that, I really do like how it looks now when it gets darker. The second point of that is that the text that you're seeing there is different to text that I had before. So I did have some text previously, although not with the little cool wiggle or anything like that. But the font that you're seeing there is this font up here in the top right. This is another feature, something that I worked on, which is a unique sprite-based font. So each of these characters here is a sprite that I created, and it's modeled off of the same Germanic font that I used for the game title, but now it's in game. And that's something that if I load this guy here and just kind of have a chat with him, you'll see some text appearing. So I'm still kind of prototyping some ideas about how dialogue system and stuff's going to work, but you can see that this is really what it's for. It's about dialogue, dialogue and UI. So that is really, you know, you can see a lot more here if I load the debug, although right now everything's overlapping a little bit. That's something that really turned out well. Like, I'm really happy with how nice the Germanic font looks. It's really quite readable given that it's Germanic. If anyone has played Ultima 7, you'll know that sometimes this stuff really is not readable at all. It's really can be really tricky. So it's kind of crisp, it's readable, and I think it looks really nice and thematic. So I'm really happy with how that font worked out. It did take a little bit of effort, but I think it was worth it. So, alright, I'm going to just hit reset now quickly, just to get it back into day. And you can kind of see something here. I'm also working, I'm not really ready to show this because there's some pretty big things afoot with the menu, but I also did a lot of work on the menu system. So you can kind of see that I've got some buttons happening, I've got some titles. If I press escape inside the game here, you'll see I've got this kind of like a menu now popping down that looks a lot nicer. So this was all kind of new, and there's something really cool that's going to happen for the menu system, but we'll talk about that next time. So, alright, we're making pretty good progress. Let's have a look here. Another big step forward is that shadows have been added, so for the walkway along here and the right hand side as well. So what that means is that if I press what should I press to make shadow maps turn up? Probably M. Yeah, okay. So you can kind of see here what's going on, these sprites. So previously shadows were for the left hand side. I hadn't actually added them to the right hand side, so this has kind of fleshed that out. So now if I walk around over here, you can see that I'm probably in the shadow, and it's got all these neat features. It's dynamic. So if I open this door, for example, I And yeah, I mean, that's nothing that I didn't have already as far as having worked out the, how to make it actually happen. So it already existed over here, but now it's for the full walkway. So that's really a big step forward to have finally got all that done. And it does have a few little neat features to it that I really like. So as it gets darker, for example, if I just speed up time, you'll notice, of course, that it's brighter up top, darker down there. So it's still, you still can't really see where the light's coming from. Like, this play space is a bit flat still, and the light sources are a little bit ambiguous. But I'll have some beams of light coming in that help indicate that there are windows up top you can't see that are bringing in daylight. And the idea is that the spaces under here are not getting hit by daylight. But if it's nighttime, that wouldn't really make sense. The thing is, this lighting system is quite dynamic. So if you look at the light under here, as it gets darker, right, it actually kind of balances out a bit. So if I was to grab some wood here, get this fire going, and just make things a bit brighter so that you can see. The difference between the top and the bottom now is actually substantially less. So if I was to stand under here now, I'm not getting darker like I was before. The idea is just that, okay, it might be that you're further away from light sources, but it's no longer that you're hidden from the light of the sun. So starting to think about things like that, it's always going to need tweaking and tinkering with, but starting to think a little bit about those differences of night and day and how the lighting works, that these particles, of course, should not be here anymore, but that's something working. Yeah, alright, so one more feature that I think I've got to show off, and then we're pretty much done here, is beds. So what I've been working on, and this is one that I'm still kind of thinking about a little bit more about how the interactivity will work, but these beds are new. So the idea, of course, is that you, your guests, and also your party of helpers are all going to have their own beds. So these bedrooms on the right, on the left-hand side of the inn, these are all for you and your pals. So you might be heading over here to chat with some people each day. Might be a few people hanging out here in the morning and stuff before they start helping out with work. There's a bit of draw order issues. I'm still kind of tinkering around with some stuff here. But I created a whole bunch of variations, so I think quite a lot of the rooms have them now. I'm still not entirely happy with the look, but that's coming along. And something that I'm thinking of quite seriously is just having a few variations where you can make improvements so that there's a lower quality bed, maybe early on, that you then upgrade to a high quality bed. Some of these rooms have got them something happen. And yeah, some of them might be broken early on or missing a mattress or something like that entirely. So that might mean that there's a fair bit more work to do with these, but still, it certainly helps make the rooms feel a bit less empty. It's just a matter of maybe being a little bit consistent with the look and the size and the shadows and things like that. And one of the tricky things, of course, is this dynamic lighting. So you can kind of see with these beds that, for example, here these pillars are lit up a little bit. But if I jump ahead of time again and make things a bit dark, like this, you'll see that just changed. So the color should be flat, and it is flat now. If I was walking around with a candle, once I add candle lighting, then it shouldn't be that the bed looks like it does when it's daytime. Really, you want to have that difference. Alright, so we've covered pretty much everything that's new. And just a quick heads up of what to expect for the next video is we are now moving to the stage of having guests actually do come to the inn. I mean, I probably say that every video, but we really are there now. So I've started work on animating the original kind of guest sprite, the peasant character, and I've been working on a design document for how the dialogue system really is going to work. I'm going to be adding like a book for assigning people to rooms. He's going to be walking and sitting down, drinking, serving, all of that good stuff's going to happen. So the next video is going to be pretty exciting, and on top of that there's some really cool stuff happening with the main menu that I get to finally show off. Yeah, so it's going to be a pretty cool video, and I think that this one here, the stuff I've just shown you, kind of really gets us up to that point now of moving into game loop stuff, which is great after 4.5 years slogging it out with this environment. Yeah, I think that 1 year from now, looking back, this is going to be really the moment at which we start to enter into some really neat stuff. I'm really excited about it. Yeah, I hope that you all do follow on Twitter if you haven't. Come and join us on Discord. Consider supporting on Patreon, because that's what helps me pay for really neat art. Thanks to Torgear. Check out Brush of Thor. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.